Join our knowledgeable hosts as they dive into the captivating universe of comic books, movies, TV shows, and pop culture. Get ready for vibrant discussions and a shared enthusiasm for all things superhero and beyond. A comic podcast straight from the panels. This is Beyond the Capes.
All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Cape. And with us is up-and-coming artist Ahmed Raafat coming in. You might have seen his work coming out at your local LCS with Dark Horse in his Quickstop adventures. I know he's also a creator along with some other of his own comic and co-creator of some other comics that we'll talk about during this episode. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me today.
All right. So the only thing I always like to ask artists, because I feel like I get a kind of a different answer with every artist. Was this always originally the plan kind of growing up? Like you fell in love with art or did you kind of have one idea and kind of did a 180?
Well, I've always wanted to be an artist ever since I was a kid, but things took turns in different directions before I arrived to that, and maybe we can touch on that more as we go. But yeah, it's always been something that I wanted to do ever since I was a kid. I've loved comics and I've loved drawing, and it's always been in my mind to do this. How I got there is a completely different story.
Gotcha. Now, one of the best things about your art that is unique, I think, to a lot of comic books now, is you are able to encapsulate a lot of that old school kind of comic feel to your artwork, which is really nice, especially in the movie's artwork. Is that a style that you kind of played around with and really took off with, or is that just something that just came out of the blue?
Well, first of all, thank you for your kind words and for noticing that, because it is a style I've always leaned towards. This kind of style, heavy shadows, backings. Some of my favorite artists, even from when I was young, were kind of playing that style. So it's something that I've always wanted to do. But obviously, it kind of evolved over time, so it hasn't always started this way. And the more you read and the more you look at stuff, the more you incorporate elements of that into the style until you arrive to something that you feel like is yours. But yeah, I've always been a fan of retro. Even if you look through all the fan art I do and stuff, it's always in retro, and I use the Band-Aid lots in all my work. So it's always been something I gravitate towards in terms of art style.
Awesome. So growing up, then I would say you obviously, I'm assuming you read a decent amount of comics, or
yeah,
I would assume so.
Yeah. So I'm currently based in the UK, but I spent most of my life in Egypt. I've only moved here 6 years ago, and finding comics in Egypt was a little bit tricky. I mean, it was there, but it's not as easy as we didn't have any comic shops. We don't have any comic conventions or anything. So it's not as easy as walking into a comic shop and just finding everything there. But I was growing up in the 90s. I got interested into reading comics in the early 90s, and this was the time of Batmania and Batman the Animated Series and all that. That's Superman and all that. So I was lucky to be during that time when comics were getting a lot of attention everywhere, even in Egypt. And was some of the first comics I read were the Batman Adventures, the series that was a spin-off, the animated series. And I used to collect these religiously, and I still have the whole stack of them back home. And that kind of led me. The Death of Superman was quite big as well. I remember the news reporting about it, like the local newspapers in Egypt saying Superman's dead, and this kind of piqued my interest. And I was like, I need to check this out. What's going on? And I started reading that as well. And one thing led to the other, and kind of got sucked into the mainstream American comics. And I think I've been a reader most of my life, even before I started doing art like professionally, or even considering comic books as a career or something I do. I've always been a fan first and an artist second.
Yeah, and I mean that's a great thing, because I mean you're to pull any art student to say draw this art and now this is your field. I'm sure people could do it. You could do art for comics without reading them, but fandom definitely plays a role.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it shows in your work. I mean,
I'm glad it does. I mean, I always talk about my influences. So I know some people don't like to say that they're influenced by this or that artist for comparison, but I always say who influenced me growing up and who were like key influences during my artistic journey, because uh, I know that I'm trying to do something different, so I'm not shy to say that, you know, I was influenced by this style or that style. I'm not trying to copy them. I'm doing my own thing, but influence is there. Like, you can't deny it.
yeah, I think it's fair enough for everyone. I think the only trap, and a lot of artists have said, you know, you just don't ever want to fall into being a copy artist because they've already been established, like that's them. But I think everyone is influenced. When you pick up your first comic book, I will always go back to a Chris Claremont X-Men. I mean, that's where my comic books start. I mean, I will always draw all my references from that storyline because that's what I know.
Yeah, and I have a stack of old comics that, you know, issues that I particularly like and artists that I particularly like from when I was a kid. I still have them with me, and I still look at them whenever I need inspiration. You know, whenever it's a bad day and I just need to get the gears in my brain working to find out a way to draw a page or draw a panel or lay out something. I just flip through just to get inspiration. So yeah, I think the stuff that we grow up reading kind of sticks, never goes away.
Definitely. So what was it like then coming from Egypt to the UK? Like here you are walking into like a first LCS and you go from maybe like a sparse comics to walls of comics.
Yeah, no, it was an amazing experience. I moved to the UK in 2016, and just before that, I had published my first comic book in Egypt, and we had like kind of our first comic festival. It wasn't as big as the ones here, but it was the first one ever, which was very exciting. And I had a table there. There were like 16 of us. It grew more over the last few years, but when it first started, there weren't that many of us. And then I came here, and I think the first convention I attended here was London Super Comic Con.
Yeah.
And it had like Brian Mullins and Jock and David Aya and super big names. And I was like, you know,
yeah,
starstruck. Like, I can't believe, you know, I'm getting books signed by Brian Mullins. And I also this was around the time I started considering making comics professionally. I think going there and seeing everyone with their tables and seeing how the indie scene in the UK is massive, and a lot of indie creators just make their comics and sell them there.
Yeah.
It was eye opening. But seeing all of this and seeing all the artists that I grew up loving and reading their work there, it kind of cemented the idea that this is what I want to do now. I want to be a professional artist. I want to be in that position where I go to conventions and have a table and have my stuff there and sell it and have people coming up and picking it up and you know, asking it to be signed or talking to me about it. This is what I want to do. So it was an eye opener. And yeah, I mean, when I first came here, I checked the local comic shop in the place where I was. I had a pull list, so I was kind of trying to experience all the things I heard other people talking about.
Yeah,
because I wanted to have this first-hand experience myself, like pre-ordering books and then going there and like, this book's coming out. Okay, please put it on my list so I can pick it up. So yeah, it was. It's a dream come true for a comic fan, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm about to say it must have been fantastic because I mean, over there, I'm sure like you could probably reserve a comic book in Egypt, but they'd be like, "Oh, it's gonna be some time," and here they're like, "Oh, sorry, you gotta wait till next Tuesday."
It's a bit tricky there. So we didn't have any comic shops until 2010. This was the first time a comic shop ever opened there. The comics were being sold at newsstand, just like how they used to be before the dark
Yeah.
market
Yeah.
in the US. So and we only got like a handful of titles. Like you got Batman and Superman and Spider-Man, because these are the famous characters in Egypt. But it's very difficult to find something like even X-Men wasn't that popular there. So it's very difficult to find that, and all the Image and the Vertigo and
Oh yeah.
all the other stuff that it was very hard to find. You'd have to look for places specifically that kind of got these things, sometimes secondhand, to be able to buy them. But otherwise, it was very tricky to find that. So and even when comic shops opened here, they didn't always have the floppies. They had the hardcovers and
Yeah.
because they're easier in case shipping takes like 3-4 months. It's just a trade that you sell there. It's not a single issue that you need to have the next one and the next one and the next one. So yeah, it's a bit. There's a bit of a different situation there than how it is in the US and the UK, where you can just go to a local comic shop and find this week's releases being sold there and being able to reserve a copy. It's a bit different, but I mean, I survived. I try to get as many comics as I can and just keep reading.
Yeah. And I mean, so here we are now. So you came to the UK, you saw the convention, you saw people tabling, and you kind of finally got that fire inside of you, like, this is what I want to do. What was your process after that? Where did you even begin with like getting your idea to paper?
Before I went to that first convention, I went to the comic shop because when I moved here, I used to work as an engineer in Egypt, so I wasn't working in arts at all. My engineering was my main job, and I was doing art on the side as a hobby. And when I came here, I didn't have any work or anything, so I thought, maybe I should try to give this being a comic artist thing a shot. I went to the comic shop and I kind of had a chat with the person there, and they said you should have a portfolio with your pages and you take it with you and you show it to people, and this is how you get the ball rolling as an artist. So that's what I did. First convention, Marvel had a portfolio review there, and I put myself just made the one issue. That's it. That's all I had with me, and I put it there. And I was thinking, maybe I have a shot at that, but obviously it wasn't as easy as that. But yeah, I mean, just had a portfolio, started going to conventions, talking to artists, taking their feedback. Some conventions would have a portfolio review with editors. I sit with them, just get their feedback. Kind of need to develop a bit of a thick skin when these things, because sometimes they can be a bit brutal. I didn't have anything that was like just quit and give up, but sometimes they'd be like you need to really work, and this is not bad, but it's not anywhere as where you want to be. Yeah, and also just being online, I think social media helped a lot with these things. Being able to network with other creators and editors, and that are not in the same geographical location as you, being able to show them their work. I had a Fiverr account at some point, but I didn't really get much proper work from it. Most of it was like, can you design a poster for my law firm, or which is fine. I mean, it was money, but it wasn't what I want to do. I wanted to make comics and to tell stories. The one thing that came out of Fiverr that was good is this is how I met Tim Stiles, who I did Grow My Dreams with. So he approached me through Fiverr, and he said that he has a comic and he likes my style, and would I like to do it. And yeah, this Grow My Dreams is one of the series that I've worked on for many years. I think we started 2016, and the last issue came out in 2021. So I spent about 5 years working on it with other stuff. So this is the one good thing that came out of Fiverr in terms of comics work. But yeah, just it's portfolio review, networking, keeping an eye on opportunities, anthologies and stuff like that, submitting my work, and just hoping for the best. That's how it's been for the last couple of years.
Yeah, and like I say, I mean, it's paying off because as we'll get in later, I mean, obviously you're doing big things. Now coming here, what was it like, even creating your first indie project, like the one you had just worked on, and getting that actual physical copy? I mean, that's always the best, I think, for most creators, is even
Yeah.
at in indie level, is holding a physical copy of your story.
Yeah. So actually, before the one I made here, I made one in Egypt called an Osba, which is Arabic for the League. It's an Egyptian superhero comic book, but it wasn't work, as in I wasn't paid anything. It was just
Yeah.
at that point I just wanted to make comics, and I wasn't writing. I wasn't able to write my own stuff at the time. I wasn't getting anywhere with that. So I was approached by two people who had an idea for a comic book, who were writers, and were looking for an artist to work on it. And this was my first comic book ever, the Osbo. And this came out of Egypt, right? Came out in Egypt right before I moved to the UK. But yeah, holding a physical copy, I mean, when I first started out doing this, all I had in mind really was just make a comic with my name on it. That's
Yeah.
the only goal. I never really thought that I'd be working in it full time. I never thought that I'd be doing what I'm doing now. All I wanted to do is I want to prove to myself and to everyone else that I've got this thing in me. You know, I can draw a comic, and I can finish a thing and print it and quote my own and have my name on it, and that was the only thing I had in mind. So it's an incredible feeling to be able to get to that point. The rest, once you get to that point, the rest is easier.
Yeah.
In terms of making comics, at least, maybe making a career out of it is a bit of a journey. But at least once you've made your first comic, the second one's going to be easier, and the third one's going to be easier. And it's going to get easier. It's going to be something that you know how to do. I've learned a lot making that first comic. I had never done any comics before, never drawn a single page, and I just dived into it. And everything I've learned in that first issue.
Yeah, I mean, and that's always a great way. Sometimes, especially in comics, is just doing it. I think a lot of people kind of sit back and just they try to plan too much, which obviously you need to have a plan, but sometimes you just need to kind of go full send into it.
I whenever somebody asks me, I tell them it's like riding a bike. You can learn as much as you can about it, but you need to do the thing to actually learn how to do it.
Yeah. Now the crazy thing, and one of the reasons we're here, because the Quickstops Volume 2 for Mubi has been fantastic.
Thanks.
How do you go to kind of meeting Kevin Smith and getting picked up by Dark Horse and doing these? Because you did Volume 1 and Volume 2, correct?
I did an issue in Volume 1. Volume 1 was 4 different stories, each by a different team. So I did the 4th issue in Volume 1, which was the Hicks family reunion, and then I did Volume 2 as one story, and I was doing the whole thing. It's funny how this whole thing came together. It was actually through Twitter, basically. So
Okay.
back in 2022,
Yep.
Kevin Smith put a tweet saying that if you'd like to work on an issue of Quickstops, drop your samples and contacts. And I've been a fan of Kevin Smith for such a long time, and obviously, I mean, knowing that this is Kevin Smith, I really didn't think I have a shot at working with him on one of these on Quickstops, but I put my stuff there in case somebody else, sometimes
Yeah.
writing go through these tweets and look at samples and see if they can work with somebody. So I thought, I'll just put it there, and maybe somebody's going to see my work and want to work with me on something. And then a couple of months later, I got contacted by the editor saying, "Would you like to do an issue of Quickstops? Kevin likes your work and stuff." I was like, "Yeah, definitely. Are you sure? Did are you sure you were supposed to contact somebody else?" So this was Quickstop's Volume 1, the issue I made, and that came out in Feb 2023. And then a week later, the editor emailed me saying, "Kevin wants your number. He wants to work with you on something else." And we messaged saying, he asked if I'd like to do a second volume of Quickstops, and I said, "Yeah, absolutely. I mean, any chance to work with you again or something." And this is how Volume 2 came to be.
All right. Well, this adds up. So you definitely are very familiar and a Kevin Smith fan, because the only person that could write this or even draw for Volume 2 is someone that is familiar with kind of the universe. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like most people, for Kevin Smith, it was just because someone showed them Clerks, and that's how I got into it. How did you even find out about Kevin Smith?
My first film was actually Mallrats.
Okay.
I was 12 when Clerks came out, so I was a bit young for that. And I don't think Kevin Smith films were released in cinemas in Egypt. I mean, I was even before I saw Mallrats in the early 2000s. It was on a TV channel late at night, and I was like, "This is amazing!" Stanley and talking about comics and all that. It was something that I've never seen in any other film before. But even before that, I knew Kevin as a figure in film and pop culture, because also at the time I was writing film articles for a magazine in Egypt as something on the side, because I've always been interested in films and comics and that kind of stuff. And Kevin was a name that came up all the time. As a comic writer, as a film writer, director, as somebody who's just in this world of fandom. But yeah, Mallrats. I just came across Mallrats by chance one night, and this was the first film I saw, and then I started looking for the other stuff here and there. And yeah, I've became a fan. I also love. I mean, I had an evening with Kevin Smith. I know this the talk he gave by heart. I've watched it times. I could recite.
All right, so anyone master of the Kevin Smith trivia, go to you. And like I said, Volume 2 has been great. I mean, that's now, what was the funnest? I mean, what was the joy of kind of writing this? Because I gotta imagine that there's a story to tell. And obviously Kevin and everyone collaborating kind of gave you the runway, but were you given a lot of freedom in drawing this, or was there certain points that they really want you to narrow down on certain characters or parts of the story?
It was a collaborative process, really. I mean, obviously we first went through a phase of designing the characters, and we went through several designs until we kind of got to look for the main characters, Nancy and Nick and Lindsay and KP. So we had, I think we spent 2 weeks just going back and forth. How about we try this and try that? But in terms of the comic itself, Kevin would usually send me the script, and I just run with it. I don't think there was any. I mean, there were certain elements that we needed to change here and there just to make sure the story flow works, and obviously there were a couple of things related to the Ask Universe mythos that I had to make sure is there. We reference the some stuff from other films. So we have to make sure that this is this is clear. But other than that, yeah, I was given freedom to take it whichever way I want in terms of pages and layouts and all that. So it was fun. I'd say I was given more freedom on this than on other projects I've worked on, which is crazy because this is big. And also it's very integrated in a bigger universe. It's not its own thing. So yeah, to be given this kind of freedom with the material was great.
Yeah. Now, the one thing that was interesting, I was surprised by the first issue. That just kind of like Clerks, they kept everything black and white, which I do like. I think for certain stories, it really adds depth to the story. Was that a choice you guys had made like in the very beginning to not do like a color to stick? Because I think with your artwork too, the black and white just really kind of shines through.
With volume 1, I think it was a decision from even before I was asked to join the team to do an issue. It was a decision to do it in black and white. For the second one, we spoke about maybe doing it in color, but eventually we decided just to do it in black and white, just to match the look of the first volume, and also the look of Clerks and the film. And I think it added to the story because the story is very noirish in a way, and at least this is how I played it. So it's funny, but also there's a noir element to it. And having it in black and white kind of heightened that. I think having it in color would have diluted the effect a little bit, but having it in black and white made it definitely a noir story in a way.
Now, when writing this comic, I'm very curious because with issue 3, that ending, I know you posted a few panels on Instagram. That ending took me very much by surprise. Did you know, like in the beginning, like did he give you kind of a rough layout of all 4 issues, or did he kind of keep some of that a secret from you until like as he was giving you the dialogue?
No, I was only sent the scripts for the first 2 issues, so I didn't know where it's going to go plot wise. In my mind, Nancy was the hero in a way.
Yeah.
Which is not entirely true. But yeah, we started the first 2 issues, and this is what I spent a couple of months drawing, and then I got the script for issue 3, and I was like, whoa, all right, I did not see that coming. And initially it was just going to be a 3-issue story, but then we expanded it to a 4th one that kind of, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's going to bring everything full circle. So yeah, you'll see in issue 4 how it all ties together in the end. But yeah, I was, and in a way, I'm glad that it happened this way. That I didn't know how the full story is going to go. I was given the story bit by bit, because I think if I knew how it's all going to go, then I would have kind of been influenced by later events in the story and how I draw characters, because I'm hoping that the readers were kind of fooled as well, or tricked into thinking when reading the first and the second issue to be siding with Nancy, and then seeing the 3rd issue and are like a little bit shocked, because this was my reaction, and I was hoping that this is this is how the readers would react as well.
Yeah, no, I can definitely confirm that that came right out of left field. I had to reread the pages. Yeah, I had to reread the pages for a couple times just to see if I had read everything correctly. So obviously we'll have an end to this soon. Is there another, if Kevin said, you know what, we're going to do volume 3, I already got it greenlit, I'm going to let you pick one of my movies or whatnot. Do you have, because I would love to see like a Dogma Quickstops, especially if he's going to truly get it remastered.
I'm not sure if the April Fool's joke or not.
I really hope it's not.
I thought it's actual news, but then somebody pointed out that it was posted on April 1st, and I was like, all right, because yeah, I mean, it's the one film that is missing out of the. Can you hear me? The
Yeah, I can hear you.
camera froze. Sorry for a second. So yeah, that's the only film that's Kevin doesn't have control over. So I was hoping that the legal stuff was sorted out in its bag now, but might be an April's Fool. Um, it's it's a bit of a difficult question. I wouldn't mind going back to doing something with Dante again. I really enjoyed drawing Dante and Randall, and I wouldn't mind going back to that again if we're doing a volume 3. But it is a hard pick to choose one out of the films to tell a story about. Maybe something that takes place between Clerks 2 and 3, or Clerks 1 and 2, or even before that. Or maybe something to do with Chasing Amy, because it takes place in the comic book world, and that would be fun. Something I have some experience in. So
Yeah, that'd be a fun one. Chasing Amy for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, that would be great. So I mean, hopefully Kevin gets you on for another one, because like I said, this has been a really good story. And he's got a lot of kind of stories to choose from.
I'm definitely hoping we'd get more volumes, even if I'm not involved, even if he just decides to get somebody else, just to keep things a little bit different between each volume and the next. As a fan, I'm really enjoying this, and I'm certainly hoping for more volumes to come in the future.
Yeah. So after this, what do you have planned next then, like in your comic book kind of career? Do you have another project you're getting ready to work on, or are you just going to take some time, kind of maybe do some fun projects or art, and just kind of settle down?
I've got a creator-owned book that I'm working on now with a writer called Wayne Murray. We pitched this before I got to work on the first Quickstops, and it got picked while I'm working on Quickstops Volume 2, so I kept them waiting for a few months until I finished Quickstops Volume 2, and then I can start on this. So this is what I'm working on now. I'm almost done with the first issue. It's going to be a 4-issue miniseries. Again, something lighthearted and comedic, nothing dark or anything. A bit more kid friendly as well, because I know Quickstop is not. I have kids, and keep asking me to read the comics, but I tell them, just wait for a few more years. And yeah, other than that, just a bit of cover work here and there and stuff like that.
So yeah, what can you tell us more about your creator-owned comic?
It's a pitch I did with a writer called Wayne Murray. He did a book called The Better Place before that with artist Sean Daly, and it's a pitch that we did in 2022 before I even worked on the first Quickstops, and it got picked while I was doing the second one. So I told him, you'll have to wait a little bit because I'm working on something else at the moment. But yeah, I started working on that beginning of this year. It's again, it's a lighthearted comedy book, and yeah, it should be coming out end of this year, beginning of next year, hopefully. other than that, yeah, just cover work and stuff like that here and there. But I think that project is where I'm going to be focusing most of my time this year.
Awesome. Well, now with all these projects under your belt, I know we had talked before about going to your first kind of Comic-Con in the UK and Egypt. Are you looking kind of when are you planning on going back and kind of getting your own table? I mean, I think at this point.
I did table a couple of times at some conventions here.
Okay.
Thought Bubble. I'm not sure if you've heard of it or not. Is one of the biggest comic festivals in the UK.
Yeah, I must say it's come up, I think.
Yeah, and it's one of the few conventions here that really focuses on comics. It doesn't focus on the movies and the stuff. It's just pure. So I've tabled there a couple of times. I'm not tabling there this year because last year was a little bit hectic with everything else going on. So I decided to give myself a break this year. And the one in Egypt, yeah, I've been going there on and off for the past couple of years as well, because while I was in the UK, I still carried on working on the series that I've started there in Oslo. We had more issues coming out, so like I'd miss a year and then I'd go there for a year with always have a table. But I've actually been considering having my own table this year for the very first time. I've always had a table with an Oslo as like the brand, but not myself as an artist. So I was thinking about that this year to go there. It's gonna be a bit tricky carrying all the comics and the stuff that I've made over there, but yeah, I might give that a shot.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say what you need to do is to tell Kevin he needs to fly you out here to I know here in our hometown of Chicago we have Chronicon that he based off of Clerks 3.
I'd love to attend that. I've seen the announcement. I've never been to the US before, but it's a plan that's long due now. I need to visit, and there's so much to do. I think I'm gonna need a few months just to be able to go everywhere. And now New Jersey's on the list as well because I need a picture outside Quickstops and
exactly
super stash and all that just to now that I've worked on Quickstops. So I need a full tour there. But yeah, I'd love. I mean, if he does it next year and keeps doing it for a couple of years, I'd love to be there at some point. He's going to be in England actually next month.
Yes, he is.
So I booked tickets to the Liverpool Comic Con to go and meet because I've seen him before in the UK when he was doing the Jay and Silent Bob reboot roadshow. He came to the UK and I went and saw that, but I've never met him as after we've worked together. So yeah, like I've seen him as sitting as audience while he's on the stage, but I've never actually met him as somebody I've worked with. So yeah, I'm going to Liverpool. Hopefully I'll if everything goes as planned, hopefully I'll meet him there next month.
Awesome. So one thing I usually like to ask people, writers and artists alike, obviously now you got a pretty solid foundation under your feet. You know the process. You've done art now for is there any plans to kind of get more into like a bigger, because I know obviously you're with Dark Horse and some other people kind of doing art for. Have you thought about do you want to keep kind of maintaining that, or are you kind of getting more interested in kind of the creator owned comics and trying to maybe do your own write and art comic book or something more indie?
I'd love to do a bit of both. I mean, obviously there is a merit to doing your own stuff and telling your own story. But as I said, I was a fan before I was an artist, and part of me wants to like at some point get to draw Batman or TMNT or things I used to love as a kid. I mean, obviously Batman is the biggest one, and Batman was the reason why I became a fan and I became an artist. So I'd like to kind of bring that full circle at some point and do a Batman story, hopefully one day in the future. So so I think a mix of this and that. I'd like to do more creator-owned stuff where I have more control and I can like tell the whole story. But on the other hand, I'd also like to work on IPs or work with characters that I grew up loving and reading or watching in film and stuff like that. So yeah, I think a mix of both would be a good thing.
Yeah. So obviously, it sounds like Batman would be kind of your number one. Like if you had a choice to pick someone up, that would be.
I'd love to. I know it's a very long shot, and it's like the holy grail of.
I mean, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy doing like a backup story in one of the anthologies, or a short story in one of the anthologies or anything, just to say that I've worked on Batman. That's definitely something that I hope happens at some point.
Definitely. Now, do you have a version of Batman? Like if you were to draw it, that is like that's kind of your go-to Batman, like kind of influenced by like these artists or this story?
I've actually done a couple of fan stories before. So if it's my version, I really like the Matt Mazzucchelli version, the year one version. That's kind of how I like to draw Batman. If I'm just not drawing a specific like not the animated series version or a specific look, that's usually what I gravitate towards. Very simple, a lot of blacks. But also something like Batman the animated series. I'd love to do something with the new books that are coming out now. And I also like the new movie, The Batman, and
Yeah.
Since it's been delayed for a year, maybe more comics to fill the gap and hire me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's also I've done some fan art when the trailers came out and the movie came out, and I like how the design works in a comic format. So so that's also a version I wouldn't mind playing around with in comic form.
Awesome. And then one final question, kind of before we wrap up here. Obviously, again, we just talked, you had a lot of experience now, kind of seeing it from kind of the comic book industry from many different angles. Obviously, you have a lot of talent in the artistry of it. Having worked with so many writers now and kind of put these books out, are you interested in starting a writing? Is that kind of something that interests you now that you've seen kind of the process of making, like
Yeah,
really honing in on it?
I've written one comic that I crowdfunded a couple of years ago, but it's kind of a slice of life science fiction 50s story with a bit of a twist. It's called Diaries of the Astronauts. I think you can guess from the title where this is going. But yeah, this was like my solo project as writer slash artist, and I started as like short stories that I used to publish online, and then I kind of tied it together with like an opening and an ending, and put it together and printed it. So yeah, I've tried writing. It's fun because there's more flex. I don't want to say flexibility, but when you're drawing, you can
Yeah.
change things much more. You have more freedom to change things around than when you're working from a script. When I'm working from a script, I try to stick to the script unless there is something that I see fundamentally doesn't work on the page. Otherwise, I'll stick to what's there. But when you're working from your own script, you can just remove a panel or add a panel or change things whichever way you like. So it's fun. It's fun in that way. It's kind of an iterative process where the page kind of evolves as you're drawing it. So yeah, definitely I'd like to try writing something either for myself or maybe for somebody else at some point. Somebody else would draw the script. Yeah, that would definitely be something I'd like to try again.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait to see kind of what the future brings in your artwork. Like I said, Quickstop, the final chapter of Quickstop Volume 2 is coming out. I think we said in 2 to 3 weeks, I believe.
April 14th or something. So soon.
So everyone, if you're interested in that story, go to your LCS and put it on your pull list. Definitely read the last 3. Great series. For everyone listening, and if they want to connect with you to see your artwork, where is the best places to find you and get a hold of you?
I'm on most social media. I'm on Twitter. I refuse to call X on principle.
Yes.
I'm on Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky, and this. I also have a link tree in my bio where like portfolio and all other important contacts. So yes, social media is the best way to get in touch with me.
Awesome. Well, everyone listening, you will see this in the comments. You'll see the link to his Instagram. Stop by, say hello, take a look at his artwork, and again, go to your LCS and pick up Quickstop's Volume 2. Thank you very much for being on our show today. Like I said, can't wait to read this final issue. And can't wait to see what you put out.
I'd love to know your reaction once you read it. Once the end.
Definitely cannot wait. You will be the first person I contact. All right, everyone listening, have a good night.